Hello everyone. Today we will see how you can set up the Azure DevOps for the Power Platform. So I'll take you through step-by-step process on what is needed, how you can what are the prerequisites, how you can set up your environments, how you can connect to your environments, and how you can basically transfer your solution from one environment to the other environment using the Azure DevOps. So before we look at how we can set up the build pipeline and the release pipeline in Azure DevOps, let's the first step that we need to do is basically install the Power Platform CLI. So again, if you search for Power Platform CLI, it would take you to this link, and there are a number of ways you can do it. So basically, if you have Visual Studio Code installed, you can install just an extension and you can work with that, or you can use .NET tool to install the Power Platform CLI. Or if you're using, this is just for Windows. And if you're using Windows OS, you can basically download the Windows MSI and you can install it from there. Since I'm using the Mac OS, I'm going to install it globally, and I'm going to use the .NET tool to install this. So once I navigate to this page, scroll down, and I can select the appropriate OS that I have, which is the Mac OS, and I can move down to the install link, copy this, open a terminal, and just paste the link over there, and this would install the tool globally on my system. This would probably take a couple of seconds. You can see it's already done, and it says it's successfully installed. So let's just have a quick look. If I say pack help, it would basically list down all the commands that are part of this that I can use with the pack. So this will, this tool is really helpful. So it will not only, help you with the creation of PCF component, but it can also help you work with a solution, whether it's a new solution, whether it's an existing solution. You can basically, do a lot of things. So now let's look at what can be done using this PCF or PAC tool, right? So command line interface. So the first thing that we would do is basically create an authentication profile. This authentication profile would help you connect to any of your environments, see what all environments you have access to with that particular profile, work with the solutions in that particular environment, and it can also help you uh, create a new solution, sync it with your current environment, or if you already have a solution which is there in your particular environment, uh, you can download that solution on your local system, and then you can just play around with it. So let's see all of that one by one. So first thing is, let's create a auth profile. So in order to do that, let me clear this up. So all you have to do is basically PAC auth create. So once you do this, hit enter. This will open up the browser, and it will show you the profile that you want to select. Since I'm already logged in with this user, I'm going to continue with this, but you also have other options that you can use another account to log in and use that one. So let me use this. So you can say authentication is complete. You can return to the application and you can close the browser tab. So let's do that. So as soon as the authentication is completed, you can see my profile is created, and you can see it is listed down as the default one. The asterisk means it's the default one. And if you have using this way, you can create multiple auth profiles. And if you have multiple auth profiles, to see them, how many profiles you have, you can simply say pack auth list, and this will list down all the auth profiles that you currently have. And to select a particular auth profile, you can see, this is the active one, which shows an asterisk over here. But let's say, you have 2 or 3 of them. This would be shown up as an index, let's say 1, 2, and 3. So you can basically select them using the index. So let's say pack auth select dash index. And let's say I'm going to select one because I only have one with me right now. So I'm going to select that one. There you go, it's done. Now, if I want to see, the environments that this particular user has access to, all I have to do is basically pack org and then list. So this would basically connect using that particular user and would show me all the environment that I have access to. So you can see I have 4 environments here. One is the Center of Excellence, the Dev, the Primary, and the UAT. And the one which has the asterisk is the one which is presently active right now. So if I would like to change the environment from primary to dev, all I have to do is basically pack or select environment and then just the environment name, which is the dev. So you can see it's looking for the environment dev, validating the connection, connected to, and now it's connected to the dev environment. And if you would like to see again, whether it's really active or not, just rerun the command, which is basically the pack org list, and it would show you the default environment that I'm connected to or the active environment. So you can see the dev is the one. So let's clear this. Now let's see, how we can create a solution locally and how we can sync it with our existing environment. So in order to do that, you can type in this command, which is pack solution. Before that, let me just create mkdir, which is going to be my testing solution 1.1 cd testing 1.1. So I'm basically, I've navigated to that particular folder. Let me clear the screen. And now let's create a solution from scratch. So for that, we'll type the pack solution init dash name, which is, this is going to be the publisher name, dash publisher name, hyphen name. Let's say the publisher name is shrink, and the publisher prefix, which is going to be dash publisher dash prefix, and let's call it as ASH, and I'm going to just say okay. So you can see it says the Dataverse solution project with the name testing solution 101 created successfully in this particular location. And how I can see that, I can see code. It's not there. All right. So in order to see what has been created, all you have to do is basically just navigate to that particular folder, and you can see this particular structure is created with the source, with the customization relationship, the solution.xml. So this is the solution has been created from scratch, and this does not contain any other information. And let's say we want to basically sync this with our present environment. So all we have to do is basically go back to the terminal. Let's clear this screen. Okay. So the first thing that you have to do is basically run this command, which is the .NET build. So this would create a zip file which you can use to sync it with your present environment. So once I do that, awesome. So this is completed successfully. If I go back, I can see in the bin folder, the debug, you can see this is the solution.zip that is created, and we will use this particular solution to sync it with our local environment or with our current present environment. So let's do one thing. This is the testing solution 101. So I'm going to open my environment. So Right now we are connected to our dev environment, so I'm going to move or basically navigate to my dev environment. And if I go to the solutions, so you can see there is only one thing, which is the test solution, but there is nothing which is known as the testing solution 101. Even if I go to the managed one, you won't be able to find it over there. So now if you want to sync it, let's go back and we just have to, import the solution to the present, dev environment. So I already showed you like how we can connect to the dev environment, how we can create the authentication profile, list the organization, connect to the particular environment. And now I'm going to show you like how we can basically sync it or import it into the environment that we are connected to. So in order to do that, all you have to do is basically just type in back solution. And what this will do is basically, whichever environment you are presently connected to, it will import that solution into that environment. So you can see it says connected to dev. It's using my profile and it's importing the solution. So we'll wait for this to complete and then we'll just, go ahead and see uh, whether it is the import is successful or not. Okay, so it says here that the solution imported successfully. Let's head back, refresh the screen. So there you go. So you can see, it has created the solution, which is the testing solution 101. You can see the publisher name is Ashwin, and it would basically any component that you create from now on would be, assigned a prefix as well, which is ASH. So now let's see, now since you have already created the solution from scratch, you have imported the solution into the current dev environment. How would you sync it with your local system, right? So let's say, you can see I don't have any components right now in this. So what I'm going to do is create a new table here. I'm just showing you like how you can create a new component from the UI and then, sync it with your local system. So let's say again, this is the entity name is dev table. Okay. And I'm going to save this. All right, so we have a new table which is known as dev table. So let's say you have created all the components, you have created your flows, you have created your apps and everything, and now you want to sync it with your local system. So the way to do that is simply head back to your terminal again. Since I'm already in within that solution, let me just clear the screen again, and all I have to do is say back solution sync. And if you have a Canvas app, which is part of this solution, you can specify an additional tag, or which is basically the process Canvas. And this would basically, if there is any Canvas app that exists in this particular solution, it will, untag that app as well. So you can see, this was able to find the new entity that I created, which is basically the hash underscore dev table, and it has extracted and it's basically synced with my local solution that I have. So if I head back and you can see if I go to the source, you would be able to see another, folder here which says entities, and this is the one which we just created, and this has all the information. So similarly, if you had your flows or the environment variables, anything that is part of this particular solution, would be synced in. with your local copy. Now you can basically, since you already have a local copy, you can say, now let's say, we want to use a source code to check in our local uh, solution, right? So for that, since I don't have, I've not initialized Git till now, all I have to do is basically say Git init. So this would initialize, you can see it has initialized an empty Git repository here. And if you head back, you can see that. And now we can basically, let's clear the screen again and say git add dash dash all, and say git commit dash n. And I'm going to write it as post. There you go. So this is basically, now you have set up your local repository, you have set up your local solution, you have synced it with your environment, you have set up your local Git repository, you are basically able to check in, all the changes that have been done. So this is how you basically create if you're creating a new solutions from scratch, this is how you can work with it. Now let's say, you already have an existing solution, but you want to again sync it with your local system and, work with that. So let's clear this. Let me move to this particular folder. Okay, let's say dir. Okay, all right. So you can see there is only one folder which is part of this, which is this testing solution 101, which we created. Now, if I head back to my Power Apps portal, I can see this is the solution that I have, right? So test solution. So let me see, this doesn't exist on my local environment or my local system. And I'm going to try to sync it with my local environment. So in order to do that, all you have to do is let's go to the test solution. Look at the information here. You can see the name is test solution here. So you have to use this name in order to, sync it with your local system. So to do that, let's go here. Let's say, so in order to sync your existing solution with your local system, all you have to do is basically type in PPC solution clone solution name, which we can get it from here, the name, don't use the display name. So in our case, it will be the test solution. And then the output directory. So in my case, this is the output directory I'm going to use. So enclose this in double quotes. So now you can see it is connected to my dev environment and it's starting to export the solution. So this will create the appropriate folder and it will download everything over there. So let me show you once this is complete. So there you go. It's basically, exported everything. So it will export two versions of it. One is the managed version, one is the unmanaged version. I would say just, keep it that way because this would help you when we go with the DevOps, the pipeline to create the build and the release pipeline. This will help you there. So let's now, if you want to verify whether we have downloaded properly or not, we can head back and you can see this is the test solution, that was there. And you can see everything is being exported and all this information is available here. So you can see that the table, the Canvas app, everything is exported here. All right. So this is basically how you can, work with an existing solution, or if you are, creating a solution from scratch, this is how you can go with it. Again, the same command would work if you are making any changes to your solution uh, in within the UI or the Power Platform. You just simply have to, okay, let's see cd test, cd distribution. Let's go there. And let's say if you have done any changes in the UI and you want to sync it with your local system, you can run the same command that we used with a new solution, that is uh, solution sync. So, so the first time, when you're trying to export a solution, you have to use the clone command. The second time, you can simply run pack solution sync, and this would sync up anything, any changes that you have done in the UI with your local system. Okay, so I've not done any changes right now, but you can see, this is how it would basically try to get all the changes and, export it to your local system. And then you can again, run your git command. You can check in the with the git code, and then you can set up your, uh, yeah, so you can see it has exported everything, unpacked the solution. It has, the sync went in successfully. So this is what you can do with your Pack CLI, and that is the reason we need the Pack CLI, because this is really important when we go to the next step, when we are trying to set up our Azure DevOps pipeline, which is basically our the build and the release pipeline. So I would show you like how this would work end to end, and how we can utilize this. So the first step is completed. Now let's move on to the next step, which is going to be our setting up our Azure DevOps pipeline to so that we can work with the pipeline, and we can do a complete cycle of getting the information from the current environment, building the solution, and then releasing the solution to a different environment. All right. So let's look at step number two. So let's prepare our environment so that the user or the service principal that we are going to use has appropriate access to this particular environment. So in order to do that, there are again two ways. One is you can create a service principal in Azure, and you can provide that service principal with appropriate rights, uh, the permissions, and then you can add that service principal to an environment from the admin center. Or the other way around is basically, you if your present user has access to those two environments, would also work. So I'm going to take the second approach. I'm not going to create a service principal in Azure, but I'm going to use my own ID in order to connect to both of these environments. So let me show you like where I've made the changes. So you can see, let's go to the admin center. And if you go to the dev environment, go to users. So you can see this is the user that I'm going to use. And this user has the system administrator and the system customizer. If you'd like to add another user, you can basically just click on add a user, search for that user. Let's say test user. Since I'm the owner, I already have access to this one. But if you would like to add, you can do it from here. So once you add that user, you can see if I've already been added to this environment, and you can also manage the security roles. So this would show you all the security roles that are part of this particular environment, and you can select which role you would like to assign to this particular user. So I'm going to basically give this user the highest role, which is the administrator and the customizer, so that there's no issue, deploying uh, or the solution, extracting the solution, and then deploying the solution. So this is the access that I've given. So this is basically your step two, that is prepare your environment so that the appropriate user or the service principal has access to both these environments. So if you have your service principal, what you can do is basically head back to settings, go to users and permission. You can say the application users, and you can add that new app user from here, the service principal that you have, and that will also work. Okay, now let's now look at how you can set up your Azure DevOps so that we can, you know, export the solution and then, check in the solution to the Azure repos and then build our pipeline and then build a release pipeline as well. So what I've done is I've already created a particular project, which is the Power Platform demo. So you can see, this has been created. You can also create just a simple project, and you can utilize that one. So since we have done that, what we can do right now is let's see how we can check in the existing code that we have to these repos. So what we'll do is let's get the repos. Okay, so this is the default repo that I have. I can even create multiple repositories, but I'm going to use the default one, and I'm going to check in my existing code over there. So in order to do that, you can see this has not been initialized. So I don't have any, repository here, or you can say there is no branches here, which is the master or the main branch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Visual Studio Code and check in this particular code. So in order to do that, let's, all right. So now I'm going to sync everything from my local system to this default repository. And in order to do that, first thing I can take is basically push. You can see this one, which is push an existing repository from command line. So I'm going to copy this origin, copy this, go to my terminal, paste it here. Let's see, probably I've already done it. Yeah, you can see the remote origin already exists, so it's already there. So now I can basically just go to git push origin all, and paste it here. This will ask for my credentials. So you can see this is asking for my credentials and it has opened in a browser. All right, so this is authenticated. Now if I head back to my terminal, you can see everything is synced up. So what I can do is basically just go back to my repos, refresh the screen, and you can see everything from my locals has been synced up, and you can find that information here. The entities, if anything else was there, everything, all the code files have been synced up. And now let's build up our the build pipeline. But before going ahead and creating a build pipeline, you have to ensure that there is an extension that needs to be installed in Azure DevOps, and that should be there. So let me show you, the extension name. So if you go to your organization settings, and then if you head to extensions, you need to install basically the Power Platform build tools. You can get it from the marketplace. Since I've already installed, I'm not going to reinstall it. But if it's not there, what you can do is basically just click on this marketplace, and you would be able to find the Power Platform build tools. You can click on get it for free, and then you can install it. You can select the organization that you want to install it, and that's it, you're done. But if it's not there, what you can do is just search for it. Um, and you can see this is the first one. You will get it. Click on this, click on get it for free. Since I've already installed it, it may not give me that link to install it again. You can see, yeah, it's not there. But if I select a different organization, it will ask me to install this extension for that organization as well. Let's see. See, there you go. See, you'll see that install button here. But since I'm going to use this default one, I'm not going to install it here. And if you have your own, setting up your own agents, you can also download it and install this package over there. So since we already have this, just ensure, this extension is installed, and you can see that in the extension screen. Now you can head back to your uh, project, open the project, set up build pipeline. And there is one more thing. If you are not able to see, the pipelines over here, which is the release and the build pipeline, uh, so you can go to your settings, and there is an option here which says disable creation of classic release pipelines. So just, if this is enabled by default, just switch it off, and then you would be able to see, the release pipeline as well. So now let's build our first, build pipeline. Let's click on create pipeline. But before we get here, there is one more setting that you have to do. That is, let's go to our project settings, and then you have to provide the service connection. So these service connections is where you would define, which is your source environment, which is your target environment, and how you would like to connect to these environments. So it could be, as I mentioned earlier, it could be, using your service principal or an app registration, which you have created in your Azure, or you can simply use your username and password to connect to these source and the target system as well. So let's create that service principal, or let's create that service connection. So once you create that service connection, if you're using your Azure app to connect to this environments, so you can search for Power Platform, and you will find this. If you click on next, you can use your application ID and the client secret, the server URL, the tenant ID, application ID to connect to this. This is the best way to do it because this is much more secure. But for this demo, I'm going to show you a different way as well. So if you're using your username and password, just select the generic, click on next, your server URL. To get the server URL, what you have to do is basically head back to your Power Apps environment. So let's say this is my dev environment and I want to know, what are my URLs. So you can basically click on session details. Sorry, not the session details, but you can click on the developer resources, and this would basically give you the web API endpoint, and this is the one which you can use to configure your environment. So let's say this is the URL. I'm going to take that, put the URL over here, put my username and my password, and then say what is the service connection name. So let's say this is my source environment. So I would do that, and then I would, in the security, I would select grants access permission to all pipelines. So this is what I would do for my source and for my target, and I would save this. So let's do that. So now you can see my source and the target have been set up. I've created the connections and everything, and this is in the service connections. So this is completed. Now let's head back to our settings, to our project, which is the okay. Let's go to the repos. Let's go to the default repository, and then let's click on the setup the build. So when you click on setup build, you can select the startup pipeline. can remove all the information here, and then you can click on Show Assistant, search for Power Platform. So the first thing that you have to do is basically install the Power Platform. So if you scroll down, search, you can see this is the one, which is the Power Platform tool installer. You can you can select this. You can additionally add this. This is not needed now, but you can do it and then click on Add. Now search for Power Platform again, and this time this will be Pack Solution. See, there you go. This is the Pack Solution. So you have to select, which is the source folder you want to select, or from, yeah, where it should basically, which folder should select for packing the solution. So in our case, it's going to be the SRC source folder. So if we go back, let's trees. So you can see this is the source folder that I'm going to use. So that's the reason the source folder of a solution to pack is, this is a source folder. And then the output folder I'm going to keep everything in the same source folder itself, which is going to be SRC. And in our case, it should be testing solution 101.zip and the type of solution. So if you want to basically, keep it as an unmanaged or a managed solution, you can select that. I would go with managed solution. And this is the place, this is the reason when we are trying to clone a particular solution, and when we are trying to clone an existing solution, we are exporting both of them, because if it's an existing solution, if you export it as um, managed a managed solution before itself, here the DevOps pipeline would give you an error message. It won't work properly. So just don't supply any parameters to the type of solution that it should be. Let it by default uh, export both the managed and the unmanaged solution. And here you can set it as type of solution as managed, and you can leave the rest of things as is, and then you can click on Add. So this is included now, and now what we have to do is basically create a copy file. Okay, so our source folder is again going to be /src, and the contents is going to be testing solutions.zip, and the target folder is going to be, so our source folder is going to be .source, and the contents that we are going to copy is the zip file that we just created, the packed solution, and the target folder is going to be the build.artifact staging directory. So once we do that, we can add it again. And the next thing is we are going to publish this particular artifacts. So again, click on publish and select the publish build artifacts. You can leave everything as is by default. So this is the folder that we have to pick up, and this is the path where we are going to publish it. The artifact name would be under the drop folder, and the location would be Azure Pipelines. So let's add this. Now let's save this and run it. So you can see it's downloading the task, which is the Power Platform installer. It's trying to install it. That's done. Now it's trying to pack the solution, which is also completed. It's trying to copy the files. It says found 0 files. Let's see. HTML files. Okay, that's not there. Let's go back, check again. Okay. I made a mistake here. Here it is, the solution is testing solution 101, but here I have just given it testing solutions. So let's go to the entire thing, paste it here, validate and save. And if you go back, this is going to run. Let's look at the job. Now let's look at this one. Okay, now let's look at the copy files. There you go. So now it says found 1 files. If you go to the publish artifacts, it says uploading 1 file. And to check, the file, the artifact, you can go back to the pipeline. And if you look at this one, it says published. And if you open this, you can see the testing solution 101. This is a file that exists. So now what we have done is basically, we have created our repository. We have created a build pipeline. So the next thing is basically building the release pipeline. But before that, I'm just going to show you something. Let's say I open the Visual Studio Code. Okay. So since we have uploaded our solution to the repos, we have built, we have created the build pipeline, and the next thing is basically creating a release pipeline. So this release pipeline would take this build code or the build solution and uh, import it into the environment that we want. So let's create the release pipeline. So once you click on the releases, click on new pipeline. Here you can select an empty job and you can change the stage name to, let's say this is a UAT environment. Okay, that's it. And now what you can do is you can select the artifacts. So add an artifact here. So you can say, from which build pipeline that you want to pick it. This is our Power Platform demo. We can pick it from there. You can see, leave this as the latest one and everything as this. This is from the drop folder. Let's add it. So we have the build pipeline. And if you want to set it up as a continuous, deployment or a continuous, release, you can select this, you can enable this, and you can, add filters as well, like which branches you would like to include. So let's say this is going to be our main branch. So we'll select that. And now this is done. So what would happen is like every time we are going to check in our code, the build would run. And once the build completes, this would be automatically deployed to our target environment. And now let's build our release pipeline. So the first thing that you're going to do is basically, click on the agent job, scroll down and select allow script to access the OAuth token. All right. So once this is done, again, search for Power Platform, install the tool, then click on Power Platform again, and then import solution. this on the first side itself. So once I select this, I can go here. I can, I can either select the service principal or I can use the username and the password. So let's click on connection references. So this is the connection references that we built before the service connection. So I'm going to select the target environment because we are already uh, we already have our code and we are uploading it from our local system, so we can do that. And then to select a solution input file, you can click on the three ellipses and you can select which file you want to use. So basically in our case it's the testing solutions zip 101. Let's select that. And also, if you have a set of environment variables that you would like to use, or if you have some connection references, so you can use a deployment settings file. So this again can be generated using your PCF PAC component or the PAC, um, and you can use that. So this basically generates a JSON file which will contain all your environment variables and your connection references. So you can change that in the JSON file and you can include that JSON file along with this deployment, and it will take everything from that JSON file. The only thing is that, for the connection references, you would have to manually create those connection references in the target environment, take that IDs and put it in the JSON file and, use it here. And then just, uh, that's it. It would do the trick. So I'm not going to use any deployment setting file for now. I'm just going to leave everything as is. And since once this is done, I'm going to save this and create a release. Create it. So you can see release is running. And what we'll do is quickly just go to the UAT environment, look at the solutions here. Let's say there is only one test solution. There is no testing solution 101 under the managed packages. So let's wait for this particular release pipeline to complete. So you can see it's running. Let's look at the logs. So you can say it says authenticated successfully, and now it's basically importing the solution. The importing usually takes a little bit of time, so we'll just wait for this to complete. All right, so now you can see, everything is deployed, everything has successfully completed. Let's head back to our environment. So I'm going to refresh the screen and let's see if the solution has been deployed properly. So let's go to the managed packages, and there you go. So this is our solution which has been deployed, and let's open the solution. Let's see what's there. So we had one table over there, and we can see it over there now, right now. So this is basically how the build and the release pipeline is going to work. Now let's see the final product. So let's make a change. Let's do it end to end, right? So let's go to our dev environment, go to the solution, testing solution 101. So we already have a table. Now I'm going to add another table now. Table which is going to be our test, and save this. All right, so we have created a new table, and now what we are going to do is we'll go to the our Visual Studio Code, clear this up, and before we do anything else, because since we have created our Azure pipeline, the the YAML file is still not here. So the first thing that we are going to do is basically do a git pull so that we sync everything up from our repository. It's thinking about it. All right, so there we go. So we have basically synced everything from our repository, and you can see this is my pipeline file, the YAML file which I just created. It's here now. I can make any changes and I can deploy it back again. And now since we are done with this, what I'm going to do next is basically do a back solution sync to sync up, whatever changes that I've done in my. Okay. Since we have done the changes in the UI side, let's see how we can sync it up. So we'll see back solution sync. So we can see, it has downloaded the entity, which is the DevOps test. And if we go to the source folder, look at the entities, we would be able to see. And you can also see my Git is showing that, some of the files are not checked in. There were some changes that has been done, which is not checked in. So what I'm going to do is basically add all of them. So git add all. Once I've done it, I'll commit this. Commit -n. So everything has been committed. Now I'm going to push this code. But before we push this code, what I'm going to do is let's head back to our pipeline. Go to the pipelines. Let's stay here. And what I'm going to do is let's do a git push. So as soon as I do this push, our build would run and our release would run. So since this is completed, let's refresh this. So there you go, it has already started. So let's look at the second commit. Let's look at the job. Okay, okay, so everything is getting done. So we have premium cache credentials. Let's look at the files. Still, awesome. So this is completed. So it found again one file. Now let's head to the releases, and our release would be running. So we can see it is running now. And if we open the release pipeline, it's waiting for the agent. Okay, so the job has started now. Let's it's trying to authenticate to my target environment. Authentication is successful. And now it's basically going to import the solution. Yeah, updated solution over there. So you can see it's started, and let's wait for this to complete. And once this gets completed, solution over here. So this is our dev. Let's head back to our UAT environment. Solutions. Let's look at the version here. It says 1.0, so it should implement. So you can see, our release is also completed. So let's head back to our environment. Let's refresh the screen. And if we look at the managed one, so you can see the solution is created. Let's open the solution. So there we go. We can see the second table over here, which is the DevOps test. That's what we wanted. So that's, the complete end-to-end cycle on how you can basically install the PAC tool, how you can create your auth profile, how you can select an auth profile, how you can list all the environments, how you can select an environment, create a solution uh, either through scratch, or if you already have a solution, how you can sync it with your local system, and then how you can set up your the pipeline, which is the build and the release pipeline, and then how you can configure your username so that it can connect with those environments, the service connections, and so this is basically how everything works. So I hope the session was helpful. Thank you.